I love it to death, just seeing the smiling faces of the people who get accepted and they're like, awesome, dude, this is my first marathon. It's probably my biggest and proudest achievement, probably of my life.
Welcome to the fourth part of our 403,000 part series, Better Know a Speedrunner. Today, we'll learn more about SloaTheDemon. Sloa is primarily a runner of RPG games such as Crosscode, Paper Mario, and Final Fantasy Tactics, although he's not to be pigeonholed. He's also run Bloodstained Curse of the Moon and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. More than that, Sloa is the founder and primary organizer of multiple online speedrunning marathons, including the biannual No Glitches Allowed marathon, which has raised hundreds of dollars for the Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center. If you're a speedrunner yourself and you're interested in being featured in this series, hit me up on Discord or simply let me know in the comments below. James SloaTheDemon Norris is a 25-year-old from Florida with a passion for JRPGs. Unlike many who fall into the speedrunning trap and the enticing grip of grinding for personal bests, Sloa still enjoys playing games casually with his free time, not the least of which are Ocarina of Time randomizers. Sloa got his first taste of speedrunning the way many of us did, by watching a Games Done Quick marathon.
I forget which one it was. I think it was 2014, 2013, around there. It was one of the earlier GDQs, but it was Poexel and I think it was a few other people were doing the Chrono Trigger 100%, and I remember watching all the way through it, and it kind of is what made me want to learn speedrun.
Having been bitten by the bug, Sloa was ready to become Fasta. He jumped into learning not just one game, but two.
I pretty much just picked two different games. I picked Majora's Mask and Final Fantasy Tactics, and I just kind of learned them back to back. Eventually, until I got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm going to choose one of them, and I ended up picking Final Fantasy Tactics and just kind of stuck from there. And it's what expanded into being more of mainly RPGs and mainly running RPGs.
Sloa started speedrunning on Twitch over 3 years ago, and he still feels as though his first year was among his most successful, attributing his quicker-than-normal growth to a friend group of more seasoned streamers and speedrunners.
I had a lot of support. I had a lot of people who were able to help me. I had more people who were watching them. So it was a bit easier for me to start getting more known and getting kind of a name out there.
Despite his penchant for speedrunning RPGs, Sloa's first world record time came in a different style of game. However, his desire for world records wouldn't last.
The first world record I ever had was in a game called Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. The world record took a couple weeks, and then there was another person that came by that was also wanting to try and grind for the world record. His name was Rith, great person, great guy, and we kind of like ended up pushing each other back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until I kind of came to the realization that this isn't what I wanted to do. What I wanted instead was personal goals. The world record was something that I thought I wanted, but after getting it and trying to maintain it and trying to keep it, I kind of realized that it's not something for me.
One of Sloa's inspirations came from a true veteran to the RPG speedrunning scene, and he's certain their contributions will not be forgotten.
Sweet Cherry Boy JP. He is a runner of Final Fantasy Tactics. He has done so much running of the game, and like I can't give this man enough credit. He's kind of like someone that's kind of inspired me, showing that if you put in the effort for things, someone will recognize it and someone will see it. Like that's kind of what's inspired me, maybe not necessarily with speedrunning, but just with everything I do in the speedrunning community in general.
While at the peak of his game for Final Fantasy Tactics, Sloa had set one of his personal goals to bring the final time of the game to under 5 hours, an achievement that would feel like taking off a sweaty pair of boots after a long day working in the sun.
Trying to get sub 5 in Final Fantasy Tactics was a very difficult thing for me. It was very trying, very hard, and once I finally got it, it almost felt like the mental cage almost. I kind of felt like I was building around myself, being trapped among this game. Just felt like I was free and I was allowed to just move on and enjoy speedrunning and learning new games. GG! Woo! We done, boys and girls. That is sub 5. The meme is dead.
His distaste for world records doesn't only apply to his personal feelings regarding chasing them. He also believes they are the subject of the worst possible advice given to new runners.
Probably my biggest pet peeve is when people say, just watch the world record, forehead. It's the stupidest thing. Like, obviously, if the world record is going through things, but at the same time, the world record's also not going into things that are more achievable for beginners, for people that are new to the game. If you're just someone that's new, came into the Discord and was like, hey, I want to learn this game, where should I look? And the first thing someone's doing is pointing them to the world record, I don't agree with that. There's like, I'm not necessarily saying that every game should have a guide, but people shouldn't just be using a cop-out of just watch the world record or just watch a run. That's not helping the runner.
With a new focus on personal bests and speedrunning for speedrunning's sake, he eventually combined that passion with his love for meeting and working with other people. This ultimately led to the creation of the No Glitches Allowed Marathon.
I started my marathon about 3.5, almost 4 years ago. It just literally started. I was in a friend's chat and I was like, yo, what if they made a marathon called No Glitches Allowed? And I was like, you know, wait a second. Instead of having someone else do it, why don't I do it instead? From there, we've had so many other marathons. We had like side marathons. And it's just kind of what's made me go down this road of becoming a marathon organizer more than just being a speedrunner. And it's just been a heck of a ride. And I love it to death, just seeing the smiling faces of the people who get accepted and they're like, awesome, dude, this is my first marathon, stuff like that. It's probably my biggest and proudest achievement, probably of my life.
For the last several years, Sloa has gone from a mere fan of the hobby, watching the greats do their thing on the biggest stage in the game, to finding himself on the top of the podium himself, to creating his very own stage to present others passionate for the hobby we all love. As his sign-off on this feature, he wanted to share some inspirational and, dare I say, energetic words from another of his favorite runners.
Yes! Believe in yourself! Don't ever give up! Don't let this fucking game keep you down! You get up every fucking time! You get up and you fight! And it's gonna take a lot more than that fucking shit to keep you down! You keep getting up, man! You keep getting up! You keep putting in the time! You keep putting in the effort! And it fucking happens, man! You keep fighting! And you punch! And you punch! And you create a crack! Then you finally bust through that motherfucker! You bust through it! All the way through it!
Well, that's it for this episode, but before we go, I'd like to give a huge shout out to SloaTheDemon for taking the time to answer the questions for this spotlight. You can find links to his YouTube, Twitch channel, and Twitter in the description below. Don't forget to give him a follow. I hope you enjoyed today's Better Know a Speedrunner. If you like the new format, please give it a thumbs up, and to make sure you don't miss any future episodes, click that subscribe button. As usual, I'd love any and all feedback you may have. Are there other questions you'd like to see answered? Any that didn't work for you? Was the profile too short? Too long? Is there a particular speedrunner you'd like to see featured? Anything and everything? Leave it in the comments below. And if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching and we'll catch you on the next run.